This is guitarist Denis Taaffe, and I'm in my home studio. And, man, I'm playing through a Supro Saturn Reverb. It's actually a 15-watt tube amp, all analog tube. And I've got it turned up to about 5 or 6 here. And, well, I've discovered something that I'm not so thrilled about. Some people love it, and that is, if we take a listen, now if I play it softly, seems fine, but the second I try to play a little more loudly, here's what happens. Alright, so you get this kind of breakup. Alright, and I'm sorry, some people love that sound. Right? But I personally hate that sound. So it's kind of a breaking up, but it's just kind of overdrivey distortion kind of. Right? And the only way to get rid of that kind of distortion-y breakup there, right, is to turn it down. And you know, this amp is already at 15 watts tube amp. So it really needs to, you know, be louder. But when it's louder and I hit it harder, you know, so for my purposes, some people love that sound, okay, but for my purposes, at loud volume, I want a really clean sound. So for me, I kind of like prefer more of a kind of a, you know, deluxe reverb type sound on clean, a Fender kind of clean. With a lot of headroom before it breaks up like that and gives you that awful kind of distorty sound, you know, or it sounds like there's something wrong with the speaker or the amp itself, you know. And after a lot of struggles with this, what I discovered is a simple tube change made all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, when I played a clean chord in a 1, it became super clean. And what I did was swap out the 12AX7 tube, stock tube, you know, that came with it, which provides a lot of gain. and replaced it with what's in this box. Now this is from Tube Depot, and let's go ahead and open it. So here we go, from Tube Depot, official unboxing. Made quite a sizely investment in, here it is, a JJ, right, and this is the ecc82. ecc82JJ, otherwise known as a 12AU7. Okay, and if we go power-wise, AX7 being the strongest, right below it is about AT7. Okay, it provides a little less gain. And then the AU7 provides a lot less gain. Now with that, you can also, it drops the gain so much that you lose some volume. Now, the nice part about it is that now, when we switch this tube out, right, it's a little tiny preamp tube, in V1, by the way, which is basically the closest one to the input jack on the Supro Saturn Reverb. Okay, and here it is. Basically a little preamp tube that's got 9 pins here. Right? A little preamp. It's a JJ tube, which actually are my favorite tubes. I really like them. Never had a problem with it. And now here's what's going to happen. When I swap that tube out, okay, it's going to give me a lot more headroom because it's a lot less gain. Okay, and at the exact same amp settings, while it may not be quite as loud, it's going to be cleaner. You know, none of that breakup thing, that kind of distortion at the end, and it sounds, awful, I think. Depending on the amp, I guess, you'll have different results, But what occurs on the Supro Saturn Reverb, all of a sudden it becomes very much like a deluxe reverb. In fact, maybe even a little better, because now you can crank up that volume, right, and it's still going to be clean, right, and none of this artificial breakup, It just sounds terrible. I mean, for me, if I want a clean sound, I want it to be clean. I don't want, it's on the edge of breakup. No, it's either clean or it's not, right? And so I've done this on this amp. Swapped out the tube, and until it just changes the amp totally. In fact, I can honestly say, even to me, to my ears, changed the reverb a bit, which I wasn't too thrilled about. With the tube change, it really sounds great. And so I'll play that for you here. Now, for whatever reason, in the Supro Saturn Reverb, when you swap out the tube, the 12AX7 versus the AU7, you don't really notice any loss in volume, which I find very surprising, because a lot of amps, you swap it out and all of a sudden the volume just whoop goes way down, And I mean, that's kind of the point, is that then you can turn it up, turn the volume up, you know, whereas on a clean, to get a clean sound, you could only turn it up to 4 or 5, you know. With a 12AU7, you can turn it up to 6 or 7 on the knob easily and still get a nice clean sound, you know. Plus, it makes those power tubes work a little harder, you know. And I'll tell you, before I did this, I was so unhappy with the stock sound of the Supro Saturn Reverb that, man, I was ready to sell it, you know. Because it broke up way too quick, you know, and way too early, so you couldn't get any volume without and still have a clean sound, you know. And so this little tube made all the difference in the world. Now, some people experiment and put it in V2 socket and that kind of thing. I haven't done any of that. All I did was just replace the V1. Again, it's the one nearest to the input jack. Okay, the gain stage. And man, made all the difference in the world, you know. Because all of a sudden I had this super clean amp, you know, without being sterile. You know, I'm not talking solid state clean. Still very much sounds like a tube amp, you know. For example, you know, the PV Bandit, okay, very, very clean. You know, it can be very, very clean sounding. However, it sounds sterile. And why? Because that solid state amp in there is just junk sounding, to me, to my ears anyway, compared to a tube amp anyway. Just very sterile, you know, that kind of sterile clean, not pleasing to the ear. And that's not the case here at all. I mean, it retains the sound of the amp, really. But all you're doing is, you know, lowering the gain, so you're not getting that terrible, you know, breakup of kind of a, you know, overdriving it. For example, when you record, you know, and you overdrive an amp channel, you know, using a microphone, you turn the preamp to too much, and it overdrives. It's that kind of distortion, and I just can't stand it, you know. So, and let's see how much this costs, actually. Right. 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 By the way, as always, you can tell a quality company if they include a sticker right here, right? Okay. No sticker, you don't know who you're dealing with. Alright. So the cost of the 12AU7JJ ecc82 is $9.95. So in other words, for $10, right? For me, it took an amp, you know, very expensive amp, really. I mean, that's easily $1,000 amp, and I hated the sound of it. You know, I just couldn't get that real nice, clean sound at a volume that I needed it to, you know. And so this $10 change made all the difference in the world. So let's take a listen to it. So now we've swapped out that 12AX7 in the V1 position of the Supro Saturn Reverb, and let's see what kind of difference it makes. clean. And keeps the, you know, the sound is basically the same. I mean, that kind of big, bassy sound that to me is a Supro amp. However, all that crusty breakup is gone. I mean, even driving it hard, you know. Now, granted, some people like the breakup, you know, kind of deals. You know, Supro's, you know, very well known because Jimmy Page used them, you know, doing that kind of... Right? But I mean, I'm sorry. Since then, you know, we have, you know, tube screamer, all kinds of pedals. So if you want distortion kind of stuff and breakup, you can get it that way. But to me, I really like the clean sound. And it's really great for pedals. And so here, I mean, here it's just going through one amp, you know, and it's, you know, just straight into the amp with no effects at all. But you see the difference that it makes in just that clean sound. And I've got the volume at 5, and let's push that a little harder and see what happens. Okay, now I've got the amp, the volume turned up to 7, right? And I remember on the Supro, the 12AX7, it's going to be this real distorted sound here. Wow. See, it's much louder, but guess what? It's still clean. Now you hear it starting to distort a little bit. And if I push it super hard, of course it's going to overdrive, you know. I mean... So, you know, within reason. I mean, that's very, very loud. You're really pushing the amp playing at that volume. You know, so let's back it off a little bit. Here we go. So we're back at the volume is at 5 o'clock. Okay. So really nice. Okay, so there, I hope you could hear the difference. And it's all about the, you know, having it breaking up like that. You know, and I mean, the other one was set up, you know, at about the same volume. It was just terrible, you know, for that kind of sound. You know, now it depends what you're going for, I guess. You know, if you're going for a distorted kind of sound, you know, then 12AX7 is fine. But if you're looking for a clean guitar sound, you know, definitely in those Saturn Reverbs, you know, AU7 tube is really a great possibility. For me, it changed my outlook on the amp altogether. Now, keep in mind here, you know, I'm just plugging into the amp, okay, and I mean, it's a straight-ahead tube amp, so it's no thrills whatsoever, but I promise you, you know, if you get pedals and that kind of thing, they sound really great. Very much kind of like a deluxe reverb in many ways. And in fact, I've tried it. Compared the two, you know, between a deluxe reverb and a Supro with the AU7 tube. And they're both very, very clean. However, I think the deluxe reverb, you know, stock deluxe reverb, is a kind of a glassier sound, you know, and not under as controlled, if that makes sense, a controlled sound compared to the Supro, which is a little bit more controlled and refined, if you like. Anyway, that's been my experience. Now, I know there are people who just swear on the, you know, the breakup and that kind of thing. But for my purposes, especially running pedals, you know, delays and reverb and that kind of thing, for me, you want a clean sound, you know. And I mean, that's what I'm going for. And when I say clean, I don't mean sterile. And I mean, you could hear if I, you know, even with the AU7, you know, if I pushed it hard enough, you know, you would still get that little breakup kind of thing. But it's not so quick that you can't even turn up the amp without it breaking up, you know, at all, so you can't really play clean at all. So definitely something to try, you know, if you haven't, in your amp, you know. For $10, this made all the difference in the world for me. You know, whether to keep that amp or sell it and that kind of thing. You know. And, yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. So I'm definitely sold on the 12 AU7s. You know? So if you've got an amp that's breaking up right away and that kind of thing, you just can't get a decent clean sound, you know, swap it out with one of these. You know, the ecc82 JJ brand, you know, which I really like. And it really makes a huge difference, as you can tell. Alright, very good. See you next time. Bye.